Discussions in this show are for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and neither SmartPro Financial nor Bridgeway Wealth are affiliated. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Working Wealth Podcast, and a special welcome back to my original co-host, my wife. I'm back.
By popular demand.
Back. She's back again. Anyway, yeah, welcome back, Haley, my lovely wife and mother of my child and future child and possibly other future children. So happy to have you back to talk about some really great fun topics. But yeah, before we dive in today, we talk about what we're actually going to talk about. Let's talk about what we need people to do for us.
Oh, yes.
Which is the thing that Haley loves to hate on.
The shameless plug.
The shameless plug. I'm not even shamed about it.
No, I know
I'm
you're not.
That's why it's shameless, right? There's
not.
less shame. So yeah, no, we love doing this show. We love talking about things. You see how excited and embarrassed Haley is right now. Help me embarrass Haley more. That's really what I need most in my life. But help us by liking and sharing our show with anyone you love. Or if you really hate the show, share it with everyone you hate. I could care less. We just want to get more listens and downloads. That'd be great. So anyway, with that plug we are going to talk today about what topic, Haley?
Well, that is a really good question.
It is.
Before we start recording, you said you want to do a little bit of life updates.
Yep.
Okay, so we can talk about that.
Yep.
And then you want to talk about the now what struggle with money.
Yeah, the what now, right?
Yeah.
Like once you get out of the struggle of, oh my God, we don't have enough, and now we actually have some traction and we actually have some perspective, we have some hope, we can see the vision.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the opportunity cost of your money.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with some life updates. Okay. So it's been a few months since you were on the show.
That's true.
And we had a few special guests come in, and we're going to have more guests come in the future.
Right.
But what have you been up to the past few months?
The past few months?
I'm putting you on the spot, 100%.
I have been a mother of a toddler.
Fun.
I have been undergoing a almost full.
Wasn't supposed to be full renovation, but
after
now
the
it's
hurricane,
90%.
It was majority.
Yeah.
Renovation of our home. That's been a lot. That's been a lot of it.
Is that enough for now?
Maybe. We lived in an Airbnb for a while.
That was terrible.
It was okay. It could have been worse, Patrick.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but those beds were pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like this table. It's like laying on a medieval rack system.
Then what else? I guess you kind of gave it away in the beginning.
Give what away?
Yeah, that we're having our second child.
We are. The royal we.
The we.
The royal we.
Yes.
We are having our second child.
Yes.
We are giving birth to another child in July of this year.
Now, I saw this funny thing on Instagram. It was this mom's making fun of how dads always use the term we when we are pregnant or we are having a baby. And so this woman got into a car accident and she said, well, we wrecked the car.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, we're having our second child. We don't know if it's a boy or girl, but probably around the beginning, if I had to imagine, since Samuel came a little early, beginning of July.
Yeah.
We'll have our second child.
And this might be posted in April. It might be posted in September.
Who knows?
You might know about it already by the time it actually comes
true.
out. But that's fine because sometimes schedules change.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So some life updates there. And we have.
But I've been okay. It's not like we've had special guests because I've been sick or something.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
there's been a lot of life.
But that's what's been going on.
Yeah.
Have I missed anything?
No, just some great conversations. That's it. But I'm assuming you were part of the listens that we've had on the show so far.
Maybe.
All right, great. Well, let's jump into our real topic then for today before we get deeper on that. So one of the things I want to talk about, because we've had a lot of good conversations around, what does it take to build wealth? What does it take to get on track? Good decisions and conversations around buying houses and insurance.
Yeah.
And we've talked about real estate, and from an investment perspective. We talked about a lot of different topics, having babies and having, what it's like to do money with your partner, your spouse, that
Right.
kind of stuff. All that is great, but I feel like one of the things that is a conversation that I have with a lot of clients or prospective clients is, well, maybe like we've done everything it takes to get out of the hole. We have all of our consumer debt paid off. We have savings in the bank. Now we have money left over each month and we're investing for the future.
Okay.
What now? And I think it's so important because especially for those that are like following the baby steps, right? So the Ramsey model, 7 baby steps, you get to baby steps 4, 5, and 6, which is investing 15% of your gross income for retirement, saving for college if that's your choice, paying off your house early with baby step 6. What I see a lot of people do is it's like there's this huge like rush and momentum and big buildup of just activity and activity and activity. And you get done with baby step 2, you're debt free, boom, awesome, got it. Get done with baby step 3, I got my savings packed up, I'm ready to go, I'm prepared for Uncle Murphy to come knocking. And then I get to steps 4, 5, and 6, and I set up my automatic contribution plans, and I'm paying off the house early and all this kind of stuff. And then it's like, oh, so this is what I do for the next 20 years? And it's almost like, in some ways, the joy and the excitement and the big goal.
Yeah, the motivation also.
The motivation. The motivation. I'm really glad you said that word. The motivation can wane.
Yeah, because what are you shooting for now?
Right. Because you don't have the debt you're trying to attack. You don't have like, I need
Right.
$25,000 in emergency fund savings. Or maybe $10,000, whatever the scale is for you, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, I'm saving up for the down payment for the house.
It's not defined anymore.
Yeah. And it's like, and I feel like, especially when we talk about this with folks that are, getting closer to retirement, a lot of times the conversation for those that are further along in their career journey is, well, I just want to get away from something. I just want to get away from my job.
Yeah.
The goal is not clearly defined of like what we're going to. And I want to talk about that.
Okay. Well,
'Cause
that's going to be very different for everybody listening.
In a bad way or a good way?
No, I mean, in a priority and personality and preference way.
Yeah, you're talking about the actual goals.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the mindset, the perspective has to be the same, right? Because
yeah.
it's so easy to have that momentum and have that progress. You're just running through brick walls, making things happen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm in my rhythm, right?
You're in your routine.
Your routine.
It's mundane.
It's mundane.
Yeah.
It's like I just have to let the market work. I have to let the investments work. Patience. Discipline.
Yikes.
Scary, right?
People hate that.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know if I love it.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely the less exciting time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more on you to keep up that discipline and that routine of doing the right things so that you have the future you're wanting. But I think more when you're talking about like this topic, I think of, okay, so we've done all the right things. It's very positive in my brain.
Oh, it's totally positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I've seen in my experience working with a
What
lot
you
of
can't
people.
do is backslide when you get there.
Right.
You can't get lazy.
Yeah.
Or you can't think, wow, we've got all this money. And then you book
You
a
say
couple
it.
trips,
Right.
buy a few things.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Emergencies become wants instead
Back
of needs.
to
Yeah.
it's 2. Back to step 2.
Right.
Okay, that would be a failure.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That would definitely be a failure. But yeah, I mean, so I guess when you reach that point, if you're married, you got to kind of start having those conversations of, yeah, exactly. Now what? What do you do with the margin? You've got everything paid off. Emergency fund, check. Retirement funds being maxed out, check. Any kid savings, any additional brokerage accounts. Am I
More on the
forgetting anything?
mortgage, that kind of
Paying
stuff.
the house off,
Yeah.
buying cars in cash. Now what?
Yeah.
Now what do we do?
And that's, to me, that's
And these
one
are
of the
conversations you and I are having in our home.
Oh.
We were having one last night.
we were totally talking about that last night.
Yeah,
Do we
exactly.
buy a rental? Do we hire another employee for our business?
Do I want to be in, me, and this is not the first time we've talked about this, do I want to be in the rental game? I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to put the money I'd put on a down payment for a rental house, reinvest that in a business that's already doing very well for us and have more quality of life?
But it can also be something as simple as
And do you?
it can also be something as simple as, well, I started my retirement planning journey later.
Okay.
Do I put a little bit more of my bonus and my raise at work into my 401k
Okay.
and investment accounts? Or do I say it's going to be enough and I need to actually invest in my family
yeah.
of going on a trip?
It's a harder one than what
Oh.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it's the one that actually comes up more often, I
Well,
think.
100% that's harder to decide than what I'm thinking about.
Right. Which is why I want to talk about this, right? Because
Okay.
and I'll be the first one to say guilty.
How often do you talk to people about that?
I would say not enough, actually. And this is kind of a good, healthy reminder for me is to have this conversation. Is once we
Yeah,
get to
but
this
like-
point, what are the other things we're going to do to focus on
Not
to
sharing,
enjoy life?
obviously not share names, but didn't someone contact you this week? The question was, do we pay off the house? Right? What's the situation?
Do we pay off the house or
Or-
do we keep the mortgage for the next couple of years and just kind of keep rolling it out while we're in retirement?
Okay,
Yeah.
just all these questions. When
Yeah.
you have the ability to pay it off,
Right.
but do you? Mm-hmm. Could you use that money? Is your interest rate so low that you could use that money for a quality
Yeah.
of life thing, like a trip with the family?
And
Lots of
it's-
trips with family.
Yeah. Should be.
Maybe people think about more trips with family when you don't have a toddler. Maybe that's my disconnect.
Josh, is that what it is for you guys? We know you have a toddler. Is that what it's like?
Yeah, I mean, we get asked by my parents and Kayla's parents constantly, like, "Hey, you want to go on this trip with us?" And we're like,
No.
"No, no, we don't want to go on this trip." They're like, "We'll pay for housing. You just got to pay for like food." And it's like, yeah, that makes it cheaper, but that's not why we can't go, man. Like,
I have a 2-year-old,
yeah,
man.
I have a 2-year-old and another one on the way. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're like, "Sometime in 2025, you want to go on a trip?"
Oh yeah, no. 2025, your
like-
family's out,
Yeah.
we're out.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's like either the first half of 2025, my wife is pregnant. Second half of
Yeah.
2025, newborn. So no.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
coming.
same.
Well, and I think
Josh
the-
and I's
to-
wives do around the same time. So
to-
yeah, that's a
to
no.
me, the underlying question is, hey, are you not planning to be there when we have a newborn to help with this child? Like, what are you, mom and dad, what are you thinking about right now? Like, you don't want to be there with your grandchild? Come on now.
Run.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Lordy, they're-
Thanks so
My
much.
family's just going to Litchfield Beach, but I'm like, we're
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, but we did that trip with the what was
4
it,
month.
4-month-old.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier when they're 4 months old than 14 months old, though. That kind of thing.
Is that how old he was this time? Yeah,
He was 15 months.
You're right.
Yeah. So no, I appreciate that. So it's so that's the thing.
That's
though,
why I'm
right?
not thinking about trips, people. Sorry.
Right. No, I think that's really the crux of this, right? Is like it's okay. So now we're in a decent position, right? And then how do we make sure we don't get so distracted by the need for more and the need for
Contentment.
yeah. Well, that's the ultimate word.
Right.
Punchline. But like, how do we
Sorry,
not?
you know me. I'm just ready to steal it.
Yeah, right. But like, how do we not get distracted by like the constant need or desire or perception of like more? And it's the same thing for me in business, right? Like, I want to help more clients. I want to help more people, which is why we're hiring, right? That's why we're trying to grow our team and be able to provide more value and service for people. But I think on the personal side is like, okay, great. I've got my emergency fund in place. I'm saving for like car upgrades and for future
Yeah.
things.
What's the balance between healthy goals and healthy reaching and then striving and discontentment?
Right.
Where, oh my gosh, what a question.
I know. That's why we have another 24 minutes to talk about this question.
I mean, what a question. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's something that everyone has to wrestle with themselves.
Yeah.
We were just doing a sermon series. Like a couple weeks. It was like 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah,
at our
2 weeks,
church,
2 weeks, yeah.
talking about generosity, and and when I've sat in on different money conversations at church or things like this as we're raising capital funds for a new location. It's, it's different amounts equal sacrifice. So how can you even, God, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, so even like personally, like we're in the middle of course, when you're in the middle of a renovation, you start thinking about, should I move? That's just what happens. Because
No kidding.
your home's been taken over. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you're watching how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
You're like, I hate this place.
Yeah.
Really, the house has done nothing.
It's great. It's beautiful. Let's be realistic
But,
here.
like,
But
you're
I think
like,
it's been a lot of life in a
I
matter
hate
of
this
4
place.
months. Yeah.
Yeah, but also when we started the renovation, we weren't pregnant with our second.
Correct. Yeah.
So now I'm like, did we just do all this and now we're about to have to buy a new house?
I hope not.
And then I'm sitting here going, like, should I even be having that thought? Like,
Yeah.
should I be super content and happy
And-
with what we have?
And that's ultimately like
In
the
our
question.
3-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot house.
Yeah. Right.
Right,
Did you
that's
say
about-
2-bed, 3-bath? It's definitely 3-bed, 2-bath.
Yeah, it's definitely that one.
Okay.
Sorry.
That wouldn't make sense the other way around. Yeah, but that's the question, right? Is like, how do you actually find yourself in a position of being content? And
Jesus.
I mean, I think there's a spiritual side of that. 100%. It's like, how do you like?
We can't
how do
will
you
ourselves
know-
to contentment.
Oh no, and I think it goes back a lot to the conversations we've had with other people. Is where is your mind? Where's your heart? Like, what's your perspective? Are you focused on just the abundance for abundance sake, or are you focused on the abundance for generosity's sake?
Yeah.
And-
And I think maybe we're both this way, like a squirrel with a nut. Take it, hide it, bury it.
Yeah,
It is definitely having to work a muscle to continue to be like, oh, we are okay. And it is okay to be generous with what has been given.
right. And I think that for everybody else, like application of what some of the things that we've had to do and some of the things that we are applying right now, I don't know if you and I have actually talked about this out loud together, but things in my brain of what I'm trying to apply is when you get in that position where it's like, okay, like I talked to someone the other day that they've got $80,000 in savings, just in
Okay.
savings. They're investing enough, they're good. They've got it's just been accumulating. They're like, I
Yeah.
just don't know what to do with it, right? Or you get the inheritance for a couple $100,000, or the house gets given to you in inheritance. It's just like, what do I do with this? I think this is where you have to go back to some of the fundamentals of how do we make good decisions. And a lot of that goes back to, first of all, defining, well, what is our end game? Is our end game, like our goal, and I was literally reading about this in the EntreLeadership book from Ramsey this morning,
Okay.
where he talks about in business, you have to have your goals in different areas of life. You have career, you have finances, you have spiritual, you have personal, you have health, you have all these other different things. Like I think 7 categories in total that he lays out there. And establishing, well, what is the end result I'm looking for in each of these, and then working backward to figure it out. And that's one of the things that honestly
But don't you feel like a lot of people lack that foresight?
they do, ourselves included, right? Like we're not
Yeah.
on some pedestal saying this. Like we have to train ourselves on this as well all the time.
Well, like if you take like a strengths finder test, some of us are just more wired to think futuristically than others are. So sometimes that can be a really big struggle.
Right.
We are both futuristic on that scale.
We are. Yeah.
So like I might, but that doesn't mean like I know what it looks like when I'm 80.
Right.
I maybe got 10 years out.
Right.
That's probably as far as my
Well,
future
And I
strength is taking me.
and I think more.
Maybe it's because I'm a mother of young children.
Well, we just got to get to the next nap time. Like that's what that is. But I think it's more so than just being the futuristic personality or perspective. I think it's more so is, do I believe that I can actually get to where I think I want to go today? Like, is that possible?
Sure, because if you don't have the hope, then what's the point of trying?
Right. And
course.
that's what I see with most people when they're starting out on their
Or
journey.
is it easier to stay status quo?
Right. And it might be easier in the short term to stay status quo, but the long term trade off of do I build a digger hole? Do I keep digging down in the wrong spot? That's a problem. And I'm talking specifically like when I'm talking with folks that are working on their debt journey, trying to pay off debt,
Okay,
trying to get
yeah.
ahead. Had this conversation yesterday with someone, trying to get out of debt,
Yeah.
trying to get on track, all these kind of things. And to me, the underlying thing we have to get to, if somebody's struggling to get on a budget, if they're struggling to start making progress on paying off debt, and a lot of times it's like you've got $10,000 in the bank and you owe $9,000 and you're just scared to write the check.
Yeah.
And the reason why that I've found, like empirically from doing this, right? Throwing a big word there, like from the data, right? What I found is people just don't believe it's possible. They don't believe, like, okay, even if I do pay this off, they don't believe they won't end up back there. And a lot of times, from my experience, it's because we have those life experiences and circumstances that have taught us not to believe it.
Is that because the first person we break promises to is ourselves?
Ouch. Ouch.
No,
I
that
saw
wasn't-
Josh's face on that. I
That
was
was
like,
not that
damn.
profound.
Oh my gosh. Yes, 100%. 100%. Josh,
Easy.
what do you think about that?
I think that I'm typing it in my notes so that I know what to pick out for a snippet for social media.
100%. Yeah.
No, that's
All
great.
right.
That is profound.
I mean, it's in every goal, in every walk of
In
life.
everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's always easier to let yourself down first,
Oh, yeah.
or it's more natural.
Yeah. Absolutely. This will not be the first time people have heard that. I've been told that so many times.
I don't know. I feel like this might be a good wake up call for people, right? And like I know that for a fact for myself with my health journey.
Oh,
right?
I know that from just like the sports journey I was on.
Okay. Talk
you-
more about that.
Well, you set a goal to play college volleyball. There's a lot of things that a teenage girl can come up with to not get there.
Mm-hmm.
But you just gotta hold some things. Like when you make a promise to yourself, you gotta see it through.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it really helps when you have people helping support you
Right.
in these things.
Yeah.
But they can take you to the practice, but they can't make you work hard at that practice.
Right.
They can take you to the gym, but they can't make you give a good effort in
Right.
the gym. I don't know. I guess I've been around that mindset my whole life.
Yeah.
But
Well, and that goes back.
that's how I was raised.
But that goes back to the point of what I'm saying is
Imperative.
people, I think a lot of times, and this is the beauty of it, in my perspective, the beauty of like what the Ramsey organization does is they share stories.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they give hope, not by just selling hope.
Because it's super relatable.
They give the story to make it relatable. They make it bite-sized and very simplistic so you can actually see, hey, millions of other people have done this. And it is
Yeah.
so
And it's
possible.
It's all very simple. It's just people keeping promises they make to themselves.
Right.
That's all it is. It's just
Right.
different. It could be a
Right.
different promise. It could be a health promise. It could be a relationship promise. We're going to do date nights, certain. It's just you keep one promise to yourself, and then you build.
Right.
I don't know. Sorry. I didn't realize I was going to really throw
Yeah,
a.
no, it's good. It's good because so take that back to the financial side.
Nobody accomplishes anything when they start breaking promises to themselves.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So let's take that though and apply it back to the original question
Yeah,
of
sure.
like when we get to the point where let's say we have kept the promises and
Okay.
we've made the progress and we've gotten out of debt, we have emergency fund in place, we're doing the investments, we're staying on track, like automatic drafts, extra principal on the mortgage, all that kind of stuff,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And now we're in a position of maybe we have some surplus or maybe we have some excess we can work with,
Yeah.
right? To me, the bigger question or the deeper question we need to figure out, which the keeping promises to yourself will help you stay on track to achieve it, is keeping the mindset and the focus of not backstepping, keeping the mindset and focus of establishing a new goal or a new target,
Yeah.
right? But doing that, in my opinion, the best way to do that is do that in some kind of vein of accountability. Whether it is either sharing it with other people, what you're doing, and that could be like your actual community. That could be
Yeah.
an advisor. That could be family, whatever that looks like. But as working it with the mindset or the perspective of, hey, like we've accomplished some big things. We don't want to stop there. What do we do next? Well, now we need to reevaluate where we are, reevaluate what is possible because we have kept the promises to ourselves. We have kept true to what the purpose of what we're doing on this journey is. How do we then level that up? But not leveling it up for the perspective of just having more, right?
Okay.
Level it up from the possibilities of what we can do because of what we have done. So if that is great,
Yeah.
I have,
Blessed to be a blessing.
you're blessed to be a blessing. Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to have abundance so that I can pour that abundance out for other people.
One thing that was said at church, I think it was this week or 2 weeks ago, was people have two different mindsets. They either have, I'm blessed, and that's where it ends, or you think, I'm blessed to be a blessing.
Right.
I was like, oof. Oof, that would hurt.
Yeah. So
That would hurt hard.
why did that stand out more to you?
Because you can, you both are gratitude, right? You're blessed. Thank you. But on one hand, you are blessed and you're grateful for what you have, and there is no posture of generosity, like the second one suggests. But so I don't know. I don't know why that just came to me.
Yeah.
But that's what I was just thinking about when you were talking.
And I would say that even more so than just the generosity piece, it's just to me, it's more a perspective of just not just about me.
Right.
Right. So like that can be, and this is the challenge that I have to intentionally work on myself is, okay, great. We have some excess to play with. Right.
Yeah.
We've always talked about doing a trip. We need to do a trip.
You and I.
We need to plan it. Yeah. Like for us, for the family, whatever it may be.
Right.
Let's actually put feet to our prayers and
Not with dollars.
well, yeah, no, yeah. Don't take a trip with toddlers. It's a terrible thing. But yeah, no, I think that perspective is like, okay, what can I do now that it's not just focused on the thing that gives me more security, but maybe stepping in faith
Yeah, sure.
of I'm going to intentionally allocate resources, whether that's money, time, focus, mindset, whatever, towards doing something that's going to benefit other people or benefit our family in a different way.
Sure, exactly.
Those kind of things.
Yeah, and that is when, if you're married, you've got to be on the same page as your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get a margin and they think investment real estate.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that? Have you thought that through? Have you thought about the property management cost?
Yeah.
Do you know if you're going to do a triple net lease?
This is a topic that's really stuck in your head right now.
Absolutely it is, because you're taking me to see a rental property today.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. And
Again.
whether it's but that's part of the journey, right? Is figuring it out. And I think that I'm not justifying it at all, but I think that when we get to that point in the journey in life, right, is the decisions will never stop.
No.
Like the evaluations will never stop. Having to look at things critically and decide, well, what is the best use of X? You have to hit those things face on and be able to decide and establish what is the promise you're going to make to yourself.
This might be an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
I have a lot of this. To me, it's harder on this side of the coin
Okay.
because there is more moral versus amoral. What do we do? Conversations.
Where there's not
Because
a clear right and wrong.
when you're in
Yeah.
debt, you got to get out of debt. This
Yeah.
is super simple. You pay this card off. You pay that car off. You have to pay off your student loans. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's easy because you know what you've got to do.
Yeah. Your back's against the wall.
Correct.
You have no other choice.
You really have no choice.
Right. If you have debt, your income is assigned to
But
someone else.
when you have
Yeah.
options, oh, that's so debilitating for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not debilitating. Like, obviously, here I am, a functioning human being.
Right,
But, like,
yeah.
that's so much harder. It's so much harder. And it's so important to have those conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't choose the wrong option.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get overzealous. You don't output your coverage
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
However they say that.
Well, and that's, I think that even for those that are retiring or have retired, that's a challenge that I've seen. And there's actually a lot of studies and statistics about this.
Because don't a
where
lot of people try and change their lifestyle in retirement?
you do see some of that where
Okay.
people like decide to step up their lifestyle tremendously. And there's a lot of risks in that.
Right.
Well, what I was going to focus on more is
Sorry.
there's been a lot of data and studies that show that those who have done really well to prepare for retirement, like the traditional retirement, like I'm going to work till I'm in my mid 60s and then no longer trade my time for dollars. I'm just going to live off of
Yeah,
investments
okay.
and pensions, et cetera. Typically, those that have done well to be well prepared, they end up growing their net worth by like 2 to 3x from the time they retire until they pass away.
Okay.
And that's because we've talked about this before. The behaviors that got them there are the behaviors that will keep them there, right?
Right, because
So-
they're not going to completely change their behavior once they're retired.
Exactly. Usually it's because of some kind of emotional or
And compound interest works in their favor.
exactly. Yeah. And like if you have the discipline will keep you going regardless, right?
Yeah.
But the challenge with that, and I don't say this in the vein of this conversation to give anybody a pass to not be diligent stewards, right? But the challenge is how do you know you're going to be in a good spot and have enough and be able to do enough, but then also maybe throttle back a hair and do other things of enjoyment of life. And I feel like a lot of times millennials and younger generations that we talk to, they're more focused on, I'm just going to live for now. You know, my 20s are my 20s. I'm never going to get them back. My 30s are my 30s. Oh, my 40s are my 40s. And it's like, okay, like shut up. Like you're just looking for excuses to act like a complete idiot, complete fool of not actually being diligent and focus on your money and not be an adult. Let's actually be realistic and focus on what are the things we can and should do to be able to be well prepared for the future while also enjoying life today.
There should be both.
There should be. Yeah, there should be. And I actually saw a LinkedIn post like 2 days ago where this guy put on LinkedIn, he said, I live in San Francisco. My salary is $340,000 a year as a software developer.
Okay.
I have a Tesla Cybertruck. The lease is like $1,400 a month. I spend $2,900 a month on DoorDash salads. I spend $2,600 a month on, what was it?
Is he a bachelor?
I don't know. But let me keep going. It's like $2,600 a month on skiing and $9,200 a month on rent for this apartment. And he did this whole list, and it said, San Francisco is too unaffordable and I don't make enough money. And there's like 8,000 comments over 24 hours on this guy's post. And I'll be honest, I commented and I said, grow up and be an adult. Like,
You did?
I did. Yeah, I did.
You're so funny.
But,
I always
but
see
did
those
it.
things and I just read the comments. I'm like,
Yeah.
eating my popcorn.
Well, and-
Woo!
but the reason
and I
why-
leave no trace.
The reason why is because, except for the cookies on your internet history, whatever. The reason why I did that is because everybody else is posting these comments about
Please
like,
hold and then start that over again.
for anybody who's listening and not watching, Haley is blowing her nose.
Y'all, I made it a
Well,
really
we're
long
not-
time without blowing my
We're not cutting that out either. So anyway,
might cut
so the
How bad was it? Real bad.
yeah. So the point is, everybody on these 8,000 comments is trying to give this guy advice. Like, oh, well, your apartment rent is too much because you're choosing to live in a higher rent area. Or like, oh,
Okay.
maybe get rid of the lease on the Cybertruck because it's $1,400 and it's this percentage of your income. And I'm just like, this guy doesn't need a math equation. This guy needs a behavior adjustment.
Yeah, absolutely.
He needs a swift kick in the teeth to realize he's acting like a daggone toddler
Well, the
and he's not
entitlement.
doing right. Yeah, you're a software developer, which means you probably don't actually do much and you're making $340 a year. Shut up. The reality is you need a swift kick in the teeth. You need to understand that behavior has
You've gotten more
impact.
brazen on these podcasts since
I
I've
have.
been out.
It's happened since you haven't been here.
Yeah.
But it's because, and I've been this way more so in conversations recently too, is because what we lack in our culture today is any kind of accountability to doing the right thing,
Now, that's
especially
a
when it comes to
whole-
money.
That's a whole problem.
It is, but especially when it comes to money. And I think that the reality is, I had this conversation again yesterday where math didn't get you where you are.
Yeah, no, of course
It's
not.
always the behavioral decisions. And it's the behavioral
Because
decisions.
you're choosing where the numbers are going.
Right.
You're
Whether
choosing
actively or passively,
Well,
you're making the choice.
somewhere it was active.
Right, but you get what I'm saying. Like
Oh, I
whether
get it.
actively or passively, you're letting it happen, you're making it happen, those kind of things.
Right.
And this goes back to that original question, right? It's like, well, once we get to the point where our back is not against the wall, how do we use the right decision making with behavior to ultimately stay on track and stay focused on the bigger picture while also getting to enjoy life? And how do we balance those things, or how do we hold those things
Yeah.
in the balance together?
And it's possible.
It is.
And it's easy. Quit thinking you're the victim. Quit breaking promises to yourself.
But before that, you need to have the promises to not break,
That's true, I guess.
which is working together. Like if you're married,
Yep.
like, and let's say we're at that point where we're out of debt, we're saving, we're investing, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, we are married and
We
those things are happening.
we sit down and we say, well, hey, like, what are the things that we might have delayed gratification on?
a good
That
bit.
now is a time
Yeah.
we can actually allocate some of our focus, some of our resources,
Sure.
whether that's time, it's money, it's, anything, right? Let's actually think about not delaying that gratification anymore, because we're at the point where we can take the foot off the throttle a little bit.
Yeah.
That
And
kind
I,
of
and I
thing.
totally agree, because sometimes not slowing down and not investing money or time onto like your marriage, what's the point in having all that money at the end? That's something we talk about with like having kids. What's the point in building a business and having all this when you've got no one to share it with?
Right.
I think it's,
Everybody knows the miserable old man with lots of money that his family hates him,
yeah,
right? Or man or woman, whatever,
Yeah.
right? Classic story of Scrooge, right? It's a good example right there. But yeah, that's to me that's the thing, right? And it's like, so when you get to this point in the journey, I guess my encouragement to people is don't completely take the foot off the gas. Like stay focused and keep that long-term vision, a long-term perspective going, which can be as simple as just setting intermediate targets, like net worth targets or investment amount targets, right? Knowing that it's not like if it doesn't happen, the world's over, but it will happen over time. But more so is like as things are kind of on semi-autopilot to work in that direction,
Yeah.
how can I also take the joystick and direct us a little bit more of a scenic route
Sure.
along the way?
yeah.
And I don't have like a clear answer of how do you do that specifically, except for just having the bigger picture vision and then working backwards to establish what are those like checkpoints along the way.
Right.
Like if you want to, take a trip to Europe as your retirement getaway, but you've never traveled outside of the country, maybe start with doing like a 3-day cruise or something.
Yeah.
Get your passport, right? Go on a 3-day cruise to see if you like traveling by plane and then getting on a boat or being, in a hotel room, that kind of stuff. Taking those small baby steps and just working incrementally towards the bigger goal, the bigger purpose, those kind of things.
Yeah. Well, this was fun. I like this topic.
Yeah. We could talk about this a lot more. And I feel like there's so many different directions we can go, but the kind of the general theme, and this has been a theme in our life a lot recently, is as we go through the journey is going to change, or the path is going to change. And how you work along that path and how you reset your focus ultimately goes back to how healthy are you becoming as you go. And then as you become more healthy, you will ultimately grow by improving your health over time. And I'm not just talking about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relational health, all those things. But as you become more healthy in all those areas, you're going to grow. And as you grow, are you growing in the right direction? Because things will change, but are they changing in the right way for your future and for
Right.
your ultimate purpose? And then as things do change, are you then allowing that change to change other things to repeat that cycle of healthy growth, leading to more change, and so on? And we talked with our friend Josh here, different Josh, a little bit ago, and he had a great analogy of that, of like a stick of dynamite, right? Which is, you get to the end of your life, or you get to the end of your financial journey, and you might end up with a stick of dynamite. And the thing is, like, that stick can either be impactful in a good way or impactful in a bad way.
Sure.
And if you don't do the right things along the journey to become a better person, to be able to handle that well and use that properly, you can either move mountains or you can move your population, right? So I think that having that perspective of things are going to change, things are going to shift, things are going to adjust over time, and how you adjust with that is the right perspective to have, making sure you are moving in the right direction towards that positive growth and positive change to ultimately fuel that cycle going forward.
Very cool. Well, perfect.
Yeah, but no, I appreciate the fact we can talk about this, because
Yeah.
there's so many different things on this journey from a math perspective and product perspective and all that. And like ultimately none of that matters if we don't have the behavior and the mindset to fuel behind it. But yeah, thank you for joining us again and coming back for another episode of the Working Wealth Podcast.
Yeah.
Just a reminder for everybody, if you haven't liked and shared, we would love your feedback. Let us know. And we'll see you next time. Discussions in this show are for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and neither SmartPro Financial nor Bridgeway Wealth are affiliated.